center.
Hi, and welcome to Carolina Varsity's 2015 Week 2 games. I'm Dale Ross.
No, I'm Pep Man Matt Morrow.
And Matt, we got a big game, Butler at Mallard Creek, this Friday night. Man, after what I saw out of Mallard Creek Saturday night, you just got to feel like Butler's walking into a group of chainsaws. You know, there's just, I don't know how else to put it other than, and I've mentioned this before, and I explained this to some guys last night at the Independence game. We were talking, and one of the guys came up. Now, you've been watching football a long time, and blah blah blah. And we were talking about different teams, and I told him the best football team I'd seen up to date was Independence 2004.
Oh yeah.
That man, this team here is Mallard Creek team I'm talking about. We got a Butler team that's not, I don't think it's going to be our typical what we've seen out of Butler out of the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
Butler's had winning seasons since they got past their, second season. They've had winning seasons, and I'm not saying they're not going to have a winning season this year. They will. But this is not a team that was winning state championships. Maybe not even the team that was challenging Independence, before they took that title of best in Charlotte away.
Right.
Gosh, I hate to ramble on, but I just think that this is going to be a tough matchup for Butler, especially offensively. If they're having the struggles offensively that we've heard,
Mm-hmm.
and this Mallard Creek defense is what we saw, and they are what we saw Friday night. I can't believe out of your best to last, you do have Independence and Butler separated, but there's not a giant separation at that, at that point. I mean, there is separation, but it's not like, this. It's probably more like this. And Mallard Creek might be like this from Vance even. So.
Well, you look at it, and the question I have to ask you is, if you're playing Mallard Creek, how do you attack it if you're on the offensive side of the ball? What can you take advantage of? And the only thing I can think of is, you mentioned that they're fast, they're aggressive. Maybe the misdirection stuff Hales has used in the past will help slow them down. You can get some screens going to take advantage of that, athleticism and speed that they floated the ball so well. But you can only do that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff can work if you can match up everywhere else.
Right.
And you mentioned the issues we've heard about Butler along the lines of scrimmage, execution from the quarterback position.
Yeah. Offensive line, you mentioned that across the line of scrimmage.
Mostly offensive issues. Their defense played, well.
Right.
In the past, there used to be issues with defense, but it seems like it's kind of flipped now. I've got every confidence Coach Hales will work to get those offensive issues solved. He is an offensive mind. He's done very well in the past. We talked about first games, how they can be kind of weird sometimes. Maybe they got that first game out of the way, and now they're going to play, higher to their potential, because I still think Butler has the potential to be the Butler that we've seen in the past. But, first game,
right?
It's kind of hard to say.
So they do have a good running back in LeMay.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think Mallard Creek's a team you can run at between the tackles.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to be able to get the ball to the edge, and to do that, you got to be able to seal down, and you've got to have a back that can, of course, get to the edge quickly, and he's going to have to be able to have speed to get out and around and outrun. And the linebackers at Mallard Creek are fast.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys flow to the ball very well, and they're very quick, and that secondary is not slow, and they're not small.
Mm-hmm.
They've got hitters, it looks like, back there.
Mm-hmm.
Independence had some success throwing the ball.
Okay.
But I don't know, it almost seemed like they were just dunking the ball when they threw the ball.
Mm.
And just like, okay, it might be somebody over there, and they had a little bit of success with it. But
now we know Butler does have, Duck, Clifton Duck. Maybe they can isolate him, and maybe they can get him in a one-on-one matchup. and maybe hit a big play or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Mallard Creek attacking the Butler defense is also something we have to look at. We know that they're probably going to have the advantage up front. So Mallard Creek, we expect them to come out, establish the run, get that going,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe that opens up the pass. Is that what we're looking at here, or do we think Mallard Creek's going to come out and try to knock them out early, maybe go deep a couple times?
Mallard Creek showed us they are willing to go vertical,
Mm-hmm.
and by vertical I mean vertical. I don't mean 5 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean get chunking it down there.
Mm-hmm.
They showed us that they're willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We know they've got the skill to do it.
Yeah.
Quarterback wasn't highly accurate, but see that's another element to the game that kid can run the ball.
Right.
So Mallard Creek was actually intentionally running him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the biggest kid, but this was going to be hard to call, but he might be the one of the best dual threat quarterbacks that we've seen, and we hadn't got to see a whole lot of him. But some of the things I see out of him, if you remember Antonio Miller,
Oh yeah.
and Antonio went to University of Tennessee Chattanooga. He's Shrine Bowl quarterback, and he was one of those dual threat quarterbacks, maybe a little bigger than Smith, but Smith has got more footwork and seems to be faster. So I think that's an element. That's that optional element that Mallard Creek could show us out of him. I don't know if they'll do it, but I can see sprinting him out.
You think Butler will blitz him?
I think that'd be very dangerous. Personally, I don't know what Butler's doing in scheme. Are they still in a 3-4 this year? That's what they've traditionally ran in the past. That front, the front five on Mallard Creek, that's a solid offensive line. Those are the biggest boys I've seen, right? And they're athletic, they're fast. They didn't have they had a better game than any offensive line you'd probably watch play. They did not play perfectly, and they made mistakes. I think they're going to be tougher this next week. There'll be corrections made. To blitz them, I just don't know where you're going to blitz from. You have to blitz from the outside. You certainly.
That's where I would, try to keep Smith contained in the pocket and make him make plays from the pocket, given the fact that he wasn't as accurate as he normally is. Maybe you hope, if you're Butler, that he's not as accurate, keep him contained, put some pressure on him. If they run the ball, at least you can try to keep it contained inside to where your help can flow and make the play. I wouldn't do it a lot, obviously, but if you're Butler, you got to give them multiple looks. Make those guys think before they react, slow them down a little bit. But like I said, in the end, you can scheme. Jimmy's and Joe's.
Jimmy's and Joe's going to have to do it. Exactly.
If Butler's going to pull the upset, their best players, meaning Duck and LeMay, we're going to have really big games to put them over the top here.
I agree. And for LeMay to have and Duck to have a good game, even on offense, big game on offense, that means that their offensive line is going to have to produce, because you can't get the ball into Duck's hands if you can't throw the ball, if you're laying on your back. LeMay can't run the ball if he's got those big defensive linemen hanging on his legs. He's just not going to be able to run the ball. So I agree with you. They're going to have to find ways. I think Mallard Creek's going to cut. If I'm Mallard Creek, and I believe this is probably what they'll do, I think their first series is going to be conservative, and they're going to need to find out exactly what does Butler have on defense. We hear all this talk about how the Butler defense is better. You cannot gauge that against Olympic as to whether they're better. What we've seen out of Butler the last few years in defense is a team that can give up to a Mallard Creek 30 to 40 points easily, and of course what they've given up in the 40s, to Mallard Creek, but they've been giving up a lot of points to a lot of teams. So can this defense? I think it's really going to come down to two things, and they're both on the Butler side of the ball.
Okay.
I don't think there's any questions what Mallard Creek can do, but can Butler's defense? Butler's defense might be the strength of that team, but if their offense can't score anything, all Mallard Creek's got to manage.
And then they'll be on the field all night.
They'll be on the field.
That'll wear them down. So.
But then all
Yeah.
Mallard Creek's offense has got to manage is 3 points and they win.
Mm.
And so it's going to be hard for Butler to score against that defense, I think.
What do you think about special teams?
Oh gosh, well, I don't know.
Well, didn't they kicked off Independence and they caused a fumble on the kickoff?
Yeah, but Independence, Matt, was you've got to watch the ball game to understand they're not good on that receiving side of the kickoff.
Yeah.
If you remember Independence in the 2004, actually Independence through most of their championship run, they never really had a kicker. They always did that high kick.
Yep, I remember that.
The high sideline kick, and Mallard Creek was doing that. There was a comment about that's not a good tactic. I think it's an excellent tactic if you can't. I think the next best thing you can do if you can't put a ball in the end zone is that, because that gives your coverage guys time to get to the ball. Because it's short, they don't have to run, 30 yards maybe to get to the ball. You put it up high enough, you're going to give them time to cover that 30 yards. And Independence had a hard time with that. The guy trying to fair catch it, sticking his hand up like this, but catching the ball, those kinds of things were hard for Independence. So I don't know, Matt. I think
well, we've seen, and I bring it up because we've seen Duck make plays in special teams.
Yes.
Over the years. Maybe that's something that can help Butler, at least with field position in the very least, if not get them a score or two. In the game when you're going against we think is a superior opponent here,
right.
You gotta get a break, somewhere.
But how you gonna get how Palmieri's not dumb, right? He's pretty intelligent guy.
Oh yeah.
And his coaches are pretty intelligent. So even if they're doing high short kicks, I doubt they kick it to Duck. I don't know. I just can't see unless. But then again, they got the coverage guys. But if that's Butler's only hope, and if he knows that, I think he'll eliminate that hope. That's what I would do.
Well, either way, it's going to be at Mallard Creek, so it's home opener for Mallard Creek.
Yeah.
Should be a big crowd. It's I guess you would call it a rivalry now. The way these teams are.
It's a cross-town rivalry.
Yeah.
They're the Butler is the former, city king, and Mallard Creek is now the city king over last 2 seasons. Actually 3 seasons, because they didn't win the state championship with Page. Page was in the middle, but that was kind of the point that things shifted from Butler to Mallard Creek, but it seems like each season the gap's getting bigger between Mallard Creek and Butler. I just sense that. But you're right. No, this is definitely a crosstown rivalry.
Should be a big crowd, so you guys, get there early, get seated, and enjoy it.
Yeah, we wonder if I hadn't heard anything if they're going to move the game. I don't know that Mallard Creek would move it. They did it. They did not do it in the past.
I doubt it. They just played at Memorial.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Memorial's a great place to play, but if I'm Palmieri, I would say you're playing on my field.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I personally hope we got a great ball game. It's on my list to go to. I do want to see Butler. Anyway, thank you.
Cup Center challenge Frieden bar, Charlie meet me on your door, and I'll learn ye the art of war if you meet me in the morning. Hey Johnny Cup, are you walking yet, or are your drums a beating yet? If you were walking I would wait to gang to the coals in the morning. When Charlie looked the letter